Thanks very much for joining us today for this presentation around developing a disaster recovery plan for your Hyperion systems. We do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to gather some information about this important topic. So a little bit about me. I've been focused in technology solutions for customers for approximately 20 years, the last 10 of which have been focused in the Oracle application space, providing mainly services in the ERP, technology, EPM, infrastructure, and professional services arena. I've helped customers specifically with data protection solutions in data center management, tape, storage area networking, compression devices, and general disaster recovery and business continuity planning. At a very high level, my 20-year career has always been centered around one recurring theme: to help clients solve business problems through the application of technology. This theme fits in perfectly with our offerings here at Key Performance Ideas. Our business is based on helping clients get the maximum value from their Oracle Hyperion investment. Our core service offerings include Hyperion Consulting Services, Managed Support Services, also known as our Remote Hyperion Administration, Hosting and Infrastructure Services, Process Engineering Services, which can be for any application, as well as Project Management Office Services, again, also product agnostic. So let's review the agenda for today's call. So here's what we are going to try and accomplish today. My goal is to get you thinking about disaster recovery. What is it? Why is it important? We'll review best practices and procedures, help build your disaster recovery checklist, introduce the benefits of our low-cost Hyperion Cloud disaster recovery solution. We'll have plenty of time at the end of the presentation for questions, so please keep track of any questions that come up along the way. If there are any questions that we are unable to answer today, we are more than happy to schedule a follow-up conversation at your convenience to do a deeper dive into your specific circumstances. For the purpose of today's presentation, I'm going to start out with some fairly broad terminology and concepts, such as the definition of disaster recovery. Discuss if you need a plan. If you do, what are some of the methods to develop one? And what are some of the issues and problems that others have encountered in their process? We will then zero in on our specific solution offerings that have been developed in direct response to issues faced by our current and past clients. I'm sure every one of you knows, in general terms, what disaster recovery is all about. What we have found, however, is that many of our clients, specifically clients whose role is within the finance function only, often have very little visibility into the details of the disaster recovery scenario as it pertains to their Hyperion solutions. In very general terms, disaster recovery encompasses the process, policies, and procedures related to preparing for recovery continuation of technology, infrastructure, after a natural or human-induced disaster. It's a subset of a larger process known as business continuity planning, and it should include planning for resumption of applications, data, hardware, communications, such as networking, and other IT infrastructure. Now, I'd be willing to bet that many of you have had to recover from some kind of disaster, no matter how minor, at some point in your career. But admittedly, this is not an everyday topic for most of us. Of course, given the current headlines right now, it may be a little bit more top of mind than it has been in the past. We certainly hope anyone affected by Hurricane Sandy and her associated storm systems are spared any major losses or hardships. Now, it's unlikely that many of you have been affected by the classic disaster scenarios, like a major storm or a fire or a major building failure of some sort. But unfortunately, there are probably many of you who have been affected by some of the more minor disasters, or what we might call major inconveniences, like power outages or spikes, network connectivity issues, application failures, or just the ever so common human error. However, in both the disaster scenarios and the inconveniences are often accounted for and addressed in disaster recovery solutions. But not all organizations have expended the time, effort, and resources to put these procedures in place. Those that have done so oftentimes neglect to maintain and update them on a regular basis. This point is not meant to impugn anyone who falls into this category, but simply point out that business, and more oftentimes technology, changes so quickly it becomes extremely challenging to keep a DR solution up to date. So this is where you need to ask yourself, where are you in terms of exposure to a disaster or even to a major inconvenience? According to the Aberdeen Group, the cost of business interruption for even some of the best prepared organizations has risen from an estimated $60,000 per hour in 2010 to approximately $118,000 per hour in 2012. That's a pretty substantial number, and that is for someone with a best-in-class disaster recovery solution. Now, that may not necessarily apply to your organization, but wouldn't even half of that amount have a pretty substantial impact on your business? So, how do you know if you need a disaster recovery plan, or a change, or an enhancement to an existing plan, or a backup plan? It's important to ask these types of questions. Does my system support a critical business process? If this system were to go down for an extended period of time, would the business be negatively affected? And if so, how? Would you be able to respond to regulatory requirements within acceptable timeframes? These are the basic questions which need to be addressed when evaluating your need for a disaster recovery plan. As I mentioned before, the solution offered by Key Performance Ideas was developed as a result of an increasing number of our clients identifying the answers to these questions and ultimately determining that their organizations either did not have proper DR solutions in place or that the solutions in place were inadequate for their Hyperion systems. We have never encountered a client anywhere in the country that would characterize their Hyperion systems as not mission critical. In nearly every case, there is a significant risk to the business should they be without their Hyperion systems for any substantial period of time. Now, I am hoping and praying that none of you have ever described your DR plan specifics to your executive or ownership team in any fashion similar to this cartoon. And I ask you to please excuse the levity, but our marketing director is a big Dilbert fan. And let's admit it, disaster recovery is not an especially fun topic. I guess it's sort of a given that anything with the word disaster in it is very unlikely to be associated with fun. But all joking aside, I would not at all be surprised if the final frame of the cartoon might strike a chord with at least some of you. DR solutions are not always first on the funding priority list, and scope of the solution is quite likely to be scaled down to fit that constraint. Now, I can't take a poll today, but let's just assume everyone on the call has at least some level of DR procedures in place. Let's take a look at some of the areas that clients often run into problems when trying to create DR procedures specific to Hyperion solutions. I want to go on record here that there are some very good IT organizations that do a very respectable job of working with business units and functional users to provide a thorough backup and recovery service. For those of you IT folks on the call, I want to reiterate, This is not an all-inclusive finding. But as we all know, Hyperion systems are often unique in both their ownership and support models within an organization. It's important for organizations to fully understand and document the responsibility and ownership of the disaster recovery solutions for your Hyperion systems. It's critical that the Hyperion application owners and the users ask these questions. Who is responsible for the protection of your Hyperion systems? Does that person or department understand your systems? Have they proven to you that they can protect and restore your systems? And importantly, how often do you audit this function? If any doubt or incomplete answers result from asking these questions, it may be necessary to dig a little deeper. In addition to identifying any potential risks around system ownership and responsibilities, of course, you'll want to qualify your readiness and evaluate your specific solution. You'll need to know, how can we evaluate our DR solution? Are there compliance issues for us to consider? Would we survive an audit? How quickly can we restore if we need to? And what are the industry best practices? Let me share this with you. One of our most requested consulting engagements here at Key Performance Ideas is what we call a business system review, or a BSR. You may hear other firms refer to this as a health check, or performance tuning, or an application architecture review. We package up all those services into our BSR and take a comprehensive look at our clients' Hyperion systems and provide them with a comprehensive document outlining our assessment of their current state, including risks, opportunities, compliance with best practices. And as a component of this process, it is our standard practice to explore the disaster recovery solutions in place at each client. Inevitably, we encounter clients who tell us that their Hyperion systems are part of a DR solution put in place in conjunction with the IT department, and that they, quote, have us covered, unquote. Unfortunately, beyond that, the users often have no significant details. There are many common mistakes and misconceptions around how to best provide DR solutions for Hyperion systems, but there are many unique attributes to Hyperion applications, and oftentimes to their associated business processes, that are not often accounted for in a generic DR plan. Just a few of the things that we run into on a regular basis include the example of a simple tape backup. This is the easy part, but would you believe they often forget, or more likely neglect, that next step to actually take the media off-site to prevent protection from the earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, blizzards that might cause a data center shutdown? Another one is the failure to back up the Windows and EPM registries. We also find that properly stopping services, database, and EPM applications while backups are running. And finally, more often than not, incorrectly shutting down the application servers to prevent corruption with EPM shared services security. Many of these items can be addressed through simple planning and preparation, along with regular upkeep. However, how will you know if these or other potential risks are applicable to you? Quite simply, you need to ask. Going back to the scenario when, during the case of a BSR, a client says IT has us covered, the next question from our consultant is nearly always something like this: when is the last time you completed a full restore test scenario? Followed by the question, does the restored environment allow you to perform sufficiently and meet all current and likely future SLAs? It's important to conduct these simple steps. You must review your current plan, if any. you definitely want to conduct a restore and document the process. You'll want to review all documentation. Very importantly, you'll also want to review the roles and responsibilities for all of these processes. Build in change management process, because your system's not going to be the same months from now or years from now that it is today. And finally, regularly review alternative solutions or enhancements. If your organization has completed some but not all of these steps, it is well worth paying close attention to that last bullet. Our clients have asked us to provide some alternatives, and in some cases, just an extra layer of protection for their Hyperion systems. Key Performance Ideas has taken our collective experience around designing Hyperion solutions, developing and implementing those solutions, supporting those solutions, and hosting those solutions, and developed a disaster recovery solution option dedicated to Hyperion applications. So how do you know what type of DR solution you need? We've compiled the knowledge gained assisting clients across multiple solution practices. The Hyperion Business Systems Review project that I mentioned previously, which are conducted by our consulting services group and includes both application and technical experts. We've also leveraged the knowledge gained from our systems maintenance and remote troubleshooting team, or as we call it, the SMART team. This group of expert Hyperion administrators provides part and full-time remote administrative support for dozens of clients across the country and abroad. So they have seen a lot of different Hyperion environments, as well as the associated disaster recovery plans. And of course, we most definitely leverage the knowledge and experience of our infrastructure services team, who is responsible for all of our hosting and performance tuning services. We put all these resources at our clients' disposal to conduct a thorough business analysis and design the best solution for their unique Hyperion systems, as well as their unique business processes. And here's how we approach it. We identify the scope of the business continuity plan. We conduct a thorough business impact analysis. And to help out with budgeting, we build a business case for a DR plan. We offer clients 3 levels of protection and services, ranging from an ad hoc, offline, periodic basis, sort of there when you need us approach, all the way up to an online, immediate failover type solution where your users will be unaware of any interruption to their systems. That additional level of security and a greater degree of flexibility can often be found in a backup and recovery cloud solution. This service provides a great number of options when it comes to the level of protection, recovery times, acceptable data loss, etc. It also provides the client the ability to adjust their processes based on their specific business needs, much more simply and efficiently than a traditional on-site only solution. Clients can choose their exact level of protection based on the business needs and oftentimes the budgets. Depending on your specific requirements around backup schedules and restore timelines, we can assist you in determining the proper level of protection. Some clients may only require storing daily, weekly, and monthly backup media at an off-site location. This media can then be used to rebuild systems in the case of an outage that prevent the current systems from running. For others, it may be replicating backup data to another environment at an off-site. That data can then be used to rebuild the systems that are not available in case of data center outages. If the production environment is not available for any lengthy period of time, the backup environment can be leveraged by system users directly. And in some cases, higher level of protection is required, and we can assist in deploying an online continuous backup, also known as a high availability environment, which keeps your critical business systems running at the primary and one or more remote locations by replicating all system changes in real time. So how do you know if the Hyperion Cloud solution might make sense for you? Does your organization fit any of the above criteria? Firms looking to ensure their mission-critical EPM systems are covered in a disaster? Are you an organization that wants to mature your IT processes while reducing your capital outlay? Anyone looking for a low-cost option for Hyperion backups? Customers wanting 100% assurance that their mission-critical, complex Oracle Hyperion environment is completely backed up? If so, it may warrant a closer look, especially, and this is very important, if you want a DR environment that is specifically designed for Hyperion systems by people that only design, develop, and support Hyperion systems in an environment consisting of only Hyperion systems. Your disaster recovery plan may very well be perfectly adequate for your Hyperion applications and your specific business requirements. But have you evaluated yours lately to ensure that the plan that was put in place initially is still adequate for your current systems? Have your Hyperion systems grown? Have you added modules? Will the DR environment provide adequate performance? You know what I'm talking about. Will those monster Essbase cubes run anywhere near as fast on the DR servers, or did your month end just extend by a day or two? Have you changed versions, or are you planning an upgrade? Have your service level agreements changed, or do you anticipate that they will, or even should? These are just some of the areas to explore as you consider whether a Hyperion Cloud disaster recovery solution might make sense for your organization. At this point, I would like to open it up for questions, and please don't be shy. You can follow the instructions right there on the screen to enter questions, and we'll be able to see them in our chat box. If you have any questions that arise after the webinar that you're not comfortable sharing here today, please feel free to reach out to me, and we can schedule a time to go a little bit deeper into your specific question. We would welcome that opportunity to schedule a follow-up discussion. Who wants to learn more? And once again, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to join us today. I hope it was time well spent. So let's see if we have any questions. I do have one here. Thank you. The first question asks, how long does a cloud DR solution take to implement? Well, actually that varies based on the scope and what level of protection you're looking for. But in our world, it's anywhere from 2 days for a simple offline system to up to 2 weeks for a high availability, somewhere in that range. And our second question here is, do we need to buy any hardware or networking equipment for this solution? That's an easy one. The answer is no. There's no additional hardware you need to buy. It's all provided by Key Performance Ideas and just a monthly subscription fee. And it looks like we do have a third question here. Could we change our service levels mid-contract? For example, if we start out as an offline customer and want to change to an online subscriber. Yes, that is no problem. You're more than able to change contract terms mid-contract, and we're happy to work with you on that.